Welcome back to another episode of Good Times Ahead. I'm your co-host, Nick Eustace. This is my boy, Tanner Thompson. And today we have with us a very special guest. He's a photographer and a content creator. Jason, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
It's Pagaduan.
Pagaduan. We were trying to figure it out. Pagaduan.
Yeah.
You may know him better as 905 Shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We're super excited about this.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it.
We're going to dive right in a little bit, though.
Okay.
So, we just want to get your backstory. That's what I want to start with. I feel like we're going to dive into a lot more later, but let's just start with like who you are, where you came from, what you're about.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
So, born and raised in Mississauga.
Shout out 905.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 27 now, about to turn 28 in July.
Nice.
Been doing photography for almost 8 years now. Actually, next month is the 8 years I started doing photography. Been doing filming and editing for about 5 years or so now, almost. I wouldn't say September, October of 2017 is when I first started that. I didn't start to do more of my YouTube channel and start doing more of my content creations until February of 2021 last year during the, I won't say it, but during the times that it was most difficult. Yeah. And then I've been doing it, over a year now. I've been doing YouTube, TikTok, still do Instagram occasionally. Mm-hmm. It's not really like the main thing I'm focused on. And I just been doing that for pre-pandemic. I was actually doing like a couple of jobs here and there. And it was going really great. And then obviously everything hit. Mm-hmm. Didn't do much for the entire year mainly. And then obviously in the summertime, I got to really enjoy life more.
Nice.
Started traveling last year. If you followed my journey, I traveled quite a bit. I went to California for a bit. I went to Montreal for a couple of days. Went to BC for 3 weeks. Amazing time.
I love BC.
Yes.
I commented on your last post. You posted a photo of Squamish.
Yeah.
I lived in Vancouver for 7 or 8 weeks last summer.
Dope.
And the West Coast is the best coast.
Without a doubt. He talks about it all the time.
Yeah. I fucking love it there.
So what would be your best place to visit in BC for you personally?
Tofino.
Yes. Okay.
What about you?
I want to say Whistler.
Okay, yes, Whistler as well. But
is it just the best photography that you've seen for yourself?
Why would you say Whistler?
Why? Because it's away from Vancouver. Because Vancouver is a cool city. Mm-hmm. It's very diverse, kind of like Toronto. It's a much smaller, dense area than it is in Toronto, which is a bit bigger. But you could tell it's like still a small world, as people say. And you want to get away, like when you go to BC specifically, you want to get away from the city life because it's cool and all, and the weather's not bad. There's just so much around BC to explore. Like Whistler, you get to go snowboarding and skiing in the winter. You get to go mountain biking. Yeah. You get to go. What else is there to do? I'm not exactly too sure what other
stuff like that. I went to Whistler the weekends, and what we did prior to obviously going out at night, we went to Longhorn Saloon, which was a fun time, but there were lakes nearby.
Yes.
And that was incredible for me. You're in the middle of a lake surrounded by mountains.
Yeah.
And I've never experienced that before.
Yeah. And so pretty much, Dana, you obviously never been, right?
I've been, I was never there for like an actual trip. I was there for lacrosse.
Okay. Yeah. When you go to Whistler, there was this one place called Wedgemount Lake. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
It's a lake. How do I describe it? It's Garibaldi Park. Okay. Yeah. It's in that region, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so from Whistler. And then you climb up a 1,400 meter high mountain. Okay. It's the average person that could actually climb up this is about 4 hours. Okay. 5 hours if you are slow. Mm-hmm. If you're an experienced person, my brother did it in 3 hours.
Wow.
Okay. And he did it with just a fanny pack and a canteen of water. Yeah. Okay. It's 7 hours we took we left at noon. We got back at 7 p.m. to the car. And you're just incline
the entire time.
hiking the entire time, and 30 minutes into it, we're all like there's 5 of us that were there, and my brother was like the quickest one to take the first break, and we're just dying there because like we didn't expect like this much cardio, this much like
the altitude too, right?
Yeah, it's a grind.
And then as you slowly progress going up, it gets colder and colder. So what happened, I messed up so badly because I didn't expect it to be this bad. Okay.
Yeah.
I had my bag that I brought in. It's like 20 pounds worth of equipment because I had my camera, I had my tripod, I had my lenses, I had everything ready, right?
So fucking tired.
And the reason why I decided to bring this was because I thought I could take some photos and videos by the time I got there, not realizing how bad it would actually be. And then I had a bunch of, some food, and I had water. What my buddy did was I put my water and my food in his bag, okay? I didn't bring a jacket or anything, so I'm literally wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants, and I'm dying it when I get to the top. And when you get to the very top of this, right before you get to the very top, it's like a steep 70-degree angle, like cliff of just rocks that you have to climb up. Legit have to use 2 hands, and I'm not even sure like how I managed to do this, because I was about to quit when I got there. Okay, long story short, when you get there, you climb up and you just see a bunch of mountains, and you see like a glacier lake there, and you could drink water there. People camp there. It's like a whole little community there, and it was so beautiful. Funny thing, I didn't have my phone because it was dead, pretty much.
Yep.
I was so tired that I didn't even think about taking my camera out, setting everything up, and taking photos of videos. And then my buddy, who had my water, drank 3/4 of it. Oh. And you know what he said? You know what he said to me? I called him out for it. What right? He knows who he is. I'm like, why did you drink my water? He's like, because I need to get rid of some weight. I'm like, well, you knew it was my water.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
you knew exactly what you were doing. You still did it anyways. Yeah. And he was like, my bad. But I'm like, whatever. Like, I just didn't care about the water at this point. I just cared about getting back down and just resting the entire time, because we were just completely dead. And one of the guys who lived there for 2 years now, he said this is one of the hardest hikes he's ever done in his entire life.
Yeah. Really, eh?
Right, yeah.
Could you really feel that when you're up in there, you lose oxygen, right? Could you really feel that, or was it
not
that
so
bad?
much.
No?
Like, I'm just thinking about getting to the top of this mountain.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about like walking around with 20 pounds on my back for 7 hours. Like, that's tiring in of itself, but
yeah,
70-degree uphill is a different story.
Yeah, about 40. I went up the first half of it. My brother took my bag and carried it down. So about 4 hours, I had that weight on me.
Is your brother an experienced like nature man or hiker? Or
he's pretty fit. He does rock climbing, and he actually did this before, the year prior to it. So he told us already what to expect. I just didn't believe him because I'm like, okay, like he says a lot of things sometimes, Yeah. He wasn't wrong. Yeah. It's honestly the hardest hike I've ever done.
I did something not quite as hard, but there's a mountain in Ireland called Crowpatrick or something along those lines. But like I was dying, completely dead going up it.
Yeah.
And a group of like 3 Irish dudes walking in flip-flops, like with a 6-pack, just buzz up through beside like my friends and I, and they're like, "See you lads at the top." It's like, what the fuck?
Would you say you're a winter guy or summer guy?
Summer guy.
Summer guy? Nice.
I've always adapted to the winter. It's part of Canada.
Yeah.
There's just like, if you have things to do to keep you occupied and keep you going by, it's not bad. There's obviously some days where you kind of feel a bit depressed because of the weather, and
you get the seasonal depression.
Exactly. And there's nothing much to do. That's my problem sometimes, is just figuring out what to do to keep myself busy during the winter months.
I had a buddy, I was in San Diego last week, and my buddy lives there, and he went skiing. Apparently you can go skiing 2 hours east of LA. I was like, I had no idea. So he took the trip up to San Diego. So he spends all day surfing in San Diego, working, whatever. And then all of a sudden you can be on a mountain skiing in
So you
2
can go
hours.
from surfing to skiing in 2 hours.
It's called
That's
it's the only place
incredible.
in
Big Bear.
like North America. Big Bear. That's
Big
what
Bear.
it was.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
Big
you
Bear.
know,
Have you
there
ever
you
been
go.
there?
I've been there once. Yeah, I went there for a camping trip back in the day.
Nice.
And then you could also go to Yosemite, which is about 7-8 hours, which is close to San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a national park, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the one called with the Grand Canyon? Is that just his own thing?
Grand Canyon is its own thing. Yeah,
Makes sense.
that's in Arizona.
That's yeah.
yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Out of all the places you've been to, where would you say your favorite spot? Because you've traveled quite a bit.
Yeah. You put me on the spot
I
right
know.
now.
Yeah.
So maybe not favorite, but top of the list.
Oh, I mean, there's so many great places in this world.
That is a tough
You're really
question.
putting me on the spot here. Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Wow. I don't want to take up too much time. Let's see. I want to say Banff. Actually, Banff. Banff is probably the best place, and specifically Moraine Lake.
Really?
If you've never been to Moraine Lake,
No.
you should definitely check it out.
I've seen a lot of Instagrams of Moraine Lake, but
Of course.
I've never
Yeah.
been.
It's because it's one of the most popular spots that's come out of Alberta within the last 5 years, 5-6 years, because the only reason why I knew about this was through Instagram.
Yeah.
And this was in 2016 when I went. So this was 6 years ago. And that was the first time I've ever heard of it. And I went on a family trip with my parents, and I went with my uncle and aunt at this time. And I was so excited when we were saying, oh, we're going through Alberta. And I told them we should go to Moraine Lake. And I showed them photos of it.
Yeah.
They were like, yes, let's just go. And it was the most beautiful. It's one of my favorite photos I've ever taken.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's my top photo.
It's just of the lake?
Yeah.
It's-
Let me describe it to you, okay? It has all the mountains in front of you, and then it has a clear blue lake with the reflection of the mountains bouncing it off, and it's just perfect.
Nice.
That's fucking picturesque. As a photographer, you must have gone there and just been in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, looking back on that moment, I didn't take in the moment too long. I didn't embrace it much. I didn't take the time to put my camera down for a second and just enjoy what's around me and just soak it all in, right? And the problem was I just started photography 2 years into this time, so I wasn't really that experienced in terms of taking a photo or even editing. I wasn't that great of editing, and when I look back on these photos, I say to myself, I could have done so much better. I just didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you try and combine like what you're passionate about with photography? Like for us, we're athletic people. We kind of like athletes in a way, so we want to bring a couple athletes on our podcast. Like,
Of course.
If you were trying to combine those two things, and what
Yeah.
would they be if they were like?
Well, mainly it would be like street photography, portraits, and then that's mainly my style of photography, where I incorporate a street shot with the landscape of the buildings, or having like a person as a portrait with the background of Toronto. Let's say we're in the middle of the street, or using just any background that is like aesthetically pleasing. Classic spot would be Bay and King, where the TD buildings are, and you have the CN Tower with the two TD buildings in the middle. It's like the most classic shot that every photographer in like the GTA has ever taken.
Has
Do you like
done.
picture it before you get there, like you know the shot you want to take?
Yeah, how do you set up a shoot, or do you
What's your
just
process?
do you just go around Toronto and you're like, okay, like this looks cool, or do you have specific locations where you're gonna go to?
Yeah.
So when I first started photography, for the first, your flashlight's on, by the way.
Oh, nice. Heads up, attaboy.
Anyways,
We're pretty dumb.
We're working on it. Yeah.
when I first started photography, I did what other photographers did, and that's just explore the city. And I would go around. The main areas would be Financial District, which is Bay and King, Front and Bay, Queen and Bay area, where Nathan Phillips Square is, where City Hall is, where Eaton Center is. And then I would just explore in between those areas, then slowly expand to going to Chinatown on Spadina.
Yeah.
Then I would go to Kensington Market, explore that. I would explore the Goodham building on Front and Church. And then I would explore just all the little things that people just have to discover themselves, right? And so with me, I have a very good geographical memory. So you don't even have to necessarily ask me about the streets. I just remember all of them. Like if you gave me just give me like a location right now, like any location that you could think of.
Fuck.
What's that park called that we had beers at one time?
Trinity Bellwoods? Yeah, Queen and Strong.
No, Stanley Park.
Stanley Park.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a bit east or west of this area.
Yeah.
But just to kind of give you an idea, like if you were looking for directions, right? And let's say you're with me and you're like, where is this place? I wouldn't even, not like humble brag. I just don't have to pull out my phone and be like, oh, it's at this location, this intersection. We go this way, walking or even driving. Like it just,
I'm the complete opposite.
It's like cab drivers; they know where to go.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And that's kind of the job. Is just knowing everywhere, because if you don't know the city well, it's like, why even work in it?
Yeah.
Well, so it's funny you say that. Like I've grown up in Toronto my entire life. And I went to the beach. We drove to the beaches for probably the first time in like over a decade that I've been to the beaches. And I was pretty embarrassed. I'm like, there's so much of this city that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's so much of this city that I don't appreciate because I haven't taken the time to go to different places.
Yeah.
Like even going out, our friend group, including myself, we're so stuck in our ways that it's like
King Street.
Oh no.
I know.
We're off it now, kind of.
Let me guess. Is it the King and Bathurst area?
Yes. Yeah. King and Bathurst, King and Spadina.
King and Portland.
Yeah. We called it the Holy Trinity back in the day. It was like Spice, Early, Citizen.
Just a trap.
Yes. Yeah, Early Mercy and then Citizen across the street, and they renamed it to Myth.
Yes. Yeah. And then they had the Pizza where you'd stumble into.
Pizza it's the trashiest pizza in Canada.
It is.
What about you, Dean? What do you think? Which is the best pizza?
If I'm looking for like fast food pizza, Domino's.
Yes.
Domino's.
Thank you.
Yes.
Fucking love Domino's.
Domino's and Little Caesars.
Yeah. Hot and ready.
Yeah.
So we can segue into, I went to Western.
Okay. Oh, yes. Western.
I went to Western, and there was Richmond Row. I'm not sure if you've ever been out there. That's all the bar spots. I'm sure you have.
Yes. There's Frogs, Seeps.
Yes.
What was
Jack's.
Jack's, yes. And then what was the one, like, couple down the streets? It's
Prohibition.
Prohibition. I went there, yeah.
That was the freshman or the first year?
No. Just all of them were shit show. But there used to be a Hot and Ready right outside of Jack's, and that was my go-to for a while. Or pizza, Little Caesars.
So first of all, shout out to Western.
Yes.
Love Western. My favorite school in the GTA, I would rank Western, Guelph,
fun.
Mac. I'll put Queens at the bottom, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was squeezing Brock in between there, like fourth
Brock
place.
seems fun.
Brock is like an underrated school because like it's all the way in St. Catherine, so it's away from the major areas of the schools that people go to normally. And St. Catherine's has their own little vibe there. Yeah. But anyways, I remembered one time we went to Western. We went to Jack's for $1 beers, okay? And this was at a time in 2018 when we did Frosh Week.
Yeah.
If you guys remember.
I remember you guys.
Yeah,
you guys coming through.
We did we did an entire week going from, it was Barrie first, 2 nights in London. And the whole tour was kind of weird with the whole navigation, okay? We went from Barrie to London to Kingston.
Oh, wow. You guys were all over.
And then we went to Ottawa.
Yeah.
Back to Hamilton.
Oh, no.
And then went to Peterborough. So it's like, when you think about it, the whole tour was just like back and forth when you could have,
Hamilton could have been on the way to London.
Yes.
Peterborough, too, like.
Peterborough could have been last, or Ottawa would have been last. Although I loved everything. So $1 beers, we go to Jack's, and then I was with another photographer, and the whole group was there. We're in that big like minivan. So there was like 20 of us in this van. Like it's like the
Sprinter vans?
Not a Sprinter van, but those like big vans that could carry like 12 people in a 12 passenger. So I'm the driver. And I remember I drop off everybody there. They're in line. It's $1 beers, and it's like at 8 o'clock at this point. Okay, 7:30 actually. So they are in line. They get in within 15 minutes or so. Okay, and this is and the reason why I knew about this after is because the photographer that was with me forgot his ID.
Oh God.
And it was about a 10-minute drive back to our Airbnb at this point. So 10 minutes to get there, 10 minutes to come back. In those 20 minutes, they're already inside. Okay, we waited in this line for an hour and a half.
It's insane.
Right, and the line went from Jack's to probably the end of the block or around the alleyway.
Around the alleyway, I know.
Right,
where there's the side door.
Yeah, and then I was like, this is insane that we're waiting here for an hour and a half. We finally get in, and guess what? It's 10 p.m. The bells ring, and they're like, yeah, Dollar Beers is pretty much done, I think, at 10 p.m.
There's certain bars that close the Dollar Beers.
Yes.
So down below.
Yeah. So we're literally there for 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm here for 5 minutes. And then the bell rings. They're like, yes, Dollar Beers is over now. And everybody decides to leave.
The worst timing.
We made a stupid mistake as well. He came to visit us in my house for Dollar Beers.
Yeah.
And we didn't order a single Dollar Beer. We just ordered mixed drinks the whole night.
Yeah.
And it was like 60. I remember you ordered like 30 mixed drinks. I'm like,
the beers also were
what
like,
are you doing?
like little shots of beer too. Like,
well, no. The Dollar Beers is
It's
like the
the
little
cup.
plastic
Little cups,
cups.
yeah.
But
And you stack them.
you're like, give me 20 then. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
It gets rowdy.
Yeah. Well, there was London. There was Seeps.
Yeah.
Never been to Seeps. Been to Frog a couple times. Shout out to Frog.
You guys had a little, I remember because I was at the school at the time, you had like a little guest appearance at Frog.
Yes, that was Frosh Week, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I remember I was like trying to get in and you were not getting into that.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on like the drinking culture nowadays?
Yeah.
Like, especially with young kids and social media coming up, trying to like prove themselves, whatever it may be. Like, what do you think about where that's going?
You definitely got to experience like the depends how you look at it, the best of the best or the worst of the worst of binge drinking culture at university.
Yeah, I would say Western, it goes crazy. Queens.
Yeah.
Even Guelph. Guelph is like, it's like the dark horse of universities.
Guelph's a fun time.
Trappers Alley.
Yeah. They have a Dollar Beers as well.
Yeah, Mondays and Thursdays. And that's the thing. When I used to go back in the day for 2 years, at that time, just drinking a lot, it was like kind of at the peak where people, this was obviously pre-pandemic, so it's at the peak of it where people were just enjoying their lives. They weren't acting too hectic or rowdy, and people started to enjoy themselves. And for me, it was just more of like people were more chill, I would say, because of people being locked down for 2 years and being inside and being away from the social gatherings and being at school and being around people that they want to be around. It kind of psychologically changes their minds and kind of makes them more, I would say, more wild than they normally would be because they're just so excited to be back and meeting people.
You have like 2 years of pent up energy.
Yeah.
And I find like, because I was in London this past weekend, like my family's from London. So I went to go visit my grandparents and I went out on Richmond Row and I noticed like a lot of the kids don't really, like who are in first or second year or third year now, they haven't had that experience where it's like, this is their first year of binge drinking or really experiencing socializing in that manner,
because they already have their group of friends, and that ties in with the drinking culture because they have their own certain group of friends already that they already know, and they haven't had the chance to go out and meet new people and create new friendships. So when you go out there, it's so difficult for some people, especially with whatever going on with their lives, whether it be depression, anxiety, mental health, or any of that stuff. It makes it more difficult for them to have the confidence to go up to somebody and just say hi and talk to them, or you don't even have to drink. It's more just the social aspect of just going out there and talking to people in person,
getting out of your comfort zone.
Exactly, instead of talking through a screen.
Yeah.
Right, through social media.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. For me, like I was, I wouldn't say opposite of that, but like during your university career, you're still young and you're still trying to figure yourself out, so to speak. and I wouldn't be able to socialize unless I was drunk.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
my anxiety
Yes.
and my depression was so bad
Yes.
that, and I consider myself a social person, but there were moments of time where like I wouldn't leave my apartment room unless I was like drunk or high because I couldn't. And I find there's a lot of kids who are in similar situations where like it's the liquid courage or
Yes.
just getting to a point where you're like drunk enough where you don't care.
Yes, and honestly, I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah.
Like what do you call it? The liquid
Courage.
The liquid courage, yeah. Like I remembered, I made myself believe that I could be talking to people, specifically women, more if I was drunk, because that is the culture and that's the norm of being able to secure somebody by using alcohol as a way to connect you two together, right?
Yeah.
Or connect just anybody in general, because you both have a reason and something in between to have us talk.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to do, where I used alcohol as a way for me to gain more confidence in myself and impress other people, instead of more so for them instead of just for myself.
Yeah.
And not going out there just to enjoy life or have casual beers and socialize and still be able to do that. And I wasn't really much of a person that gets completely drunk or blacked out or not remember what they did. I was still I was still one of those drunk people who was able to still have a clear mind and still be able to think, because for me, I don't believe in where people say, I lost my train of thought, but it was where, you make dumb mistakes or you do dumb things because you're drunk.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's a lie. I think to a certain point, you still have the physical.
You still have the whereabouts.
Yes, you still have clarity in your mind. You still know what you're doing, but you say you go through with it anyways because you could use alcohol as an excuse to
social norm.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. I agree to a certain extent where like I think like I've been pretty fucking drunk, like pretty blackout, and I still know what I'm doing, and I still am with it enough to not do certain things. Don't get me wrong, I've done some stupid stuff while I'm drunk, but like nothing to the extent of like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, you have the scaries, but like nothing where I'm like, fuck, like I ruined my life doing this.
Yeah.
It's funny on the flip side too, like talking about social norms. Like we have some friends who didn't go out during the pandemic for like the whole year, didn't leave their house, got scared, didn't leave their house at all. And now they're so used to that. Their social norm now is now sitting on the couch watching TV. So they're like, I don't want to go out. Like I've been doing this for a year and a half now. I'm chilling. I'm good. So it's kind of like
they've got so used to, I don't want to say their comfort zone, but being comfortable.
Yeah.
Where they have no desire to go out and meet new people.
Yeah.
social anxiety grows from there too. They don't want to go out anymore and talk to people. So.
I think they just condition themselves.
Yeah.
I said it before. They condition themselves to live this type of lifestyle because they are afraid of going out of the comfort zone and doing things that used to be normal.
So I want to talk about, you say going out of your comfort zone, and I listened to your podcast on Anthony and Ernesto.
Yes.
And you said just starting off your career as like a photographer, that must have been awkward to reach out to someone and be like, hey, I have no experience. I'm getting into this, but give me a chance. Yeah. Like without doing that, you wouldn't be where you are necessarily, right?
Pretty much. It was just through high school. The reason why I reached out to Kyle was only because of high school. Mm-hmm. And I saw he was doing good, and he saw through, because I think we connected in between that time, and he saw that I was doing good for myself, where I was taking good photos, I was traveling, and I guess, I mean, I've given credit to him before, and I'll give him credit again where credit is due. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for him, obviously I wouldn't have reached the point in my life where I was able to travel, I was able to meet new people, connect, do have experiences in my life, and be able to share it now. So I give give him all the respect that he was able to give me a chance, and now gives other people chances to do what they want to do. And now I'm doing my own thing where I'm giving myself a second chance of recreating things that I get to do for myself, and also allow other people around me to share that with them, whether it be a podcast or a video that I create, or if I go travel with them, right? The buddy I went to California with, he was able to experience that in person, but also now he gets to go back and watch my videos and remember those times that we were there, and he gets to say to himself, like, I was a part of that journey, I was a part of that time where it was like a really good part of my journey in YouTube. Right. And so that's what I get to now share with podcasts when I look back on this like a year from now and be like, this is wild. Like, I remember watching the Money Buys Happiness podcast again, or the No Jumper podcast, which is a fan favorite. I look back at that time and I say to myself, like, Dee knows this very well. When I did the Money Buys Happiness podcast, it was probably my most vulnerable point of my life where I got to share my story, share my life, and really talk about social media, the pros and cons of it, mental health, and everything in between that. And it just really gave me a good sense of relief when now people who are watching this video, they get to now learn more about myself.
That's awesome. When you were leaving that podcast, did you feel like a weight was lifted off your shoulders, so to speak?
Yes. I feel like that was a much different podcast because I was being able to be myself and authentic and able to share things that I cared about a lot more than what the hosts in previous podcasts cared more about, and what helped them sort of give them a topic of conversation within the video, right?
It wasn't just a conversation. They kind of had, I don't want to say an agenda, but they had
a list, like topics that they wanted to kind of talk to me about. And at the time I wasn't ready to talk about it.
I want to talk about like your overall message of like positivity. How has that sort of evolved over your career, and like where do you see it going in the future? Like how do you plan to promote positivity, like as things also change? Like everything around us is negative right now, so how do you like continue to keep pushing that vibe?
You said something in, again, the Money Buys Happiness podcast, where it's like you want to use your platform now to spread positivity.
Yes.
And that's something that I really respect and appreciate. We
want to bring it to this podcast too. Like we want to be one of our themes.
We just want to have good, like, that's why it's good times ahead.
I mentioned it off camera, like GTA, it's such a clever thing because it's Greater Toronto area,
but also we're here to have a good time.
A good time, and this is a good time. This is like a really fun experience. I love doing these type of podcasts because you don't necessarily need to think too much about things. You just talk whatever is on your mind, and you both get to have a good conversation. And this is the social aspect that we've been talking about, where you get to sit down in a room and just talk about things that people mutually agree with or maybe disagree with, but have a very civil conversation about it.
We could have this conversation off air and it would be very similar, like the phone call we had.
Of course,
I felt like you could have filmed half that phone call, and
I could have, but I didn't.
I know, it would have been awesome.
So to get to your point, Tanner, or to your question, Tanner, so a few things have kept me going, especially starting last year at this time. This was a very difficult time last year where I just couldn't figure out what to do. I was stuck at home, still figuring my life out. And then I remembered this one book, which I actually brought.
The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
This is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. My favorite book of all time. It really taught me so much about life in general. It taught me what I should really give a fuck about. Relationships, death, your values, your boundaries, your self-respect, the things that matter to you most is what you should focus on. And also just learning to just not take things personal anymore, right? It helped me get through a lot of bad times previous to that, a couple months before that. And so that's what helped me get that. And I honestly, it took me such a long time to read this book because in my birthday in 2020 is when I got this book for my brother, and I just procrastinated on reading this book. Okay, so I was so amazed with this book that I decided to get the second book that he created called Everything is Fucked, a book about hope, which I'm currently reading halfway through it. Pretty much what this book is telling you is like to not lose hope in things, and that you can change how life can be for you if you just don't really. It's not saying that you shouldn't give up and like that whole sentimental thing. It's the author's way of telling you how to take things and how to react to it, and also just learning to be more free with yourself. Like, I think that's the main point, is saying that there is hope in however struggles that you deal with.
Do you get to that through like self-reflection? Like, what's the first step?
So my daily routine is I brought a couple things. So now I have a journal that I bring. I write it every single morning or every night. I kind of break it down, what happened today, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, anything interesting that happened to me.
The gratitude stuff.
Exactly. Well, that brings you to the 5-minute journal.
There you go.
Which I don't know if you guys heard about 5-minute journal. Basically what it does is it asks you, I am grateful for, and asks you to list 3 things. That's during the daytime. It says, what would make today great? And it gives you 3 points to write down. And then it says daily affirmations, I am ... And then it asks you to write down what your daily affirmations are. And at nighttime, it says 3 amazing things that happened today. So you just obviously write down what 3 things that you did that made your day better. And then it says at the very end, how could I have made today even better? So when I go home and I write this down, the first thing I'm going to write down is doing this podcast. Okay.
Nice. Let's go.
The second thing would probably be
Seeing Dean.
Sorry?
Seeing Dean.
That goes with the podcast. I would say the second thing would be just having going outside and enjoying this beautiful day, because it's a beautiful day in Toronto. And I guess the third thing would be just having a smile on my face.
So people overlook the little things, right? I know Joe Rogan talks about it. Like, even just being healthy, people take that for granted too. Like, I hurt my collarbone the other week, and I'm like, I forget how like easy it is to just be able to like walk normally and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so simple, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah. And that's what this that's what this book reminds you of, or this journal reminds you of, the little things that you sometimes forget, and the things that you take for granted in life.
Yeah, little things go a long way. Like I'm for me personally, like same thing. Like, I'll write out what I'm grateful for, and then I don't want to call them affirmations, but something similar. And I've noticed, like, I've been consistent with that for the last few months, and it's made such a difference in my mindset and my confidence and me as a person. Like, I feel like even from the start of the January to now, I feel like a completely different person. Yeah. And then maybe in 3 months from now, I'll be different, or however long it is. But I know you touched upon it, the same thing. Like, you're evolving every fucking day, but you have to make an effort,
of course,
to evolve. Because I went through periods of time, especially in university, where you're in bed or like
in a slump,
doing fucking nothing for months at a time, and I digressed almost. Like, I became a worse person.
Yeah.
Like, you have to put effort into it.
Of course. And not just that, but anything you do in life, whether it be your career, whether it be relationships, whether it be friends, anything, you really have to put effort into it to make sure that it's going according to plan.
Yeah. You have to be mindful.
Yeah. How do you think social media has negatively or positively affected that?
Positively, it has allowed people to now network and connect with people that they can't necessarily meet in person at the time, especially during last year and 2 years ago. The positivity as well, it also allows people to share things, if you want, share things about your life, that accomplishments or things that make you feel happy, whether it be photography or sharing your music, I guess, if you're an artist, whatever you may do, and the negative, I feel like it's a very slippery thing to kind of get into, because there's a lot. If you ask somebody too about social media, like randomly, there's a lot more negatives than there are positives.
Yeah.
And there's so much to list about negative things that I don't necessarily want to get into, because it just creates.
You can go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
If I wanted to like list some things, it has created a false sense of confidence, which I could speak about myself. It has created people to be fake. It has created people to put on a persona to make people believe that their life are happier.
It's a highlight reel.
Exactly.
We've touched upon this, where it's like, I know for me, I was comparing myself throughout the pandemic to other people's lives, where it's like they look like they're having the time of their life, and I don't know what the hell I want to do with mine.
Exactly.
And little do you know, they probably are depressed or going through something as well.
Yeah, people are like naturally negative too, right? It's like human nature to be negative in a way. So how do you think like if you're trying to promote positivity, people's minds are automatically going to go to negative stuff first. So how do you like make them think that you're not actually doing it for the negative reasons, like, you know, promoting themselves or making money, all that stuff? How do you make them feel like you're actually doing it genuinely, instead of like their brain's going to the negative perspective?
Well, first of all, you gotta put all the negative things aside, because the negative things, it always makes people talk more, and especially to yourself, about things that are going wrong in your life, when there are many things out there that are doing good that you overlook because you're so focused on fixing things
or what you don't have.
Right? And with negativity, it also creates depression to yourself. It also psychologically makes you believe that these things are real, and it also creates a very bad energy towards you, and then now you spread that bad energy and those vibes to other people, because you want other people to feel what you're feeling, right? Because if they're doing better than you and you're in a bad place in your life, you want people who are around you to experience what you're going through, because you don't want to feel alone.
Is that like a mental trigger people have to develop?
Yes.
Yeah, right? That's like the hard part.
It's also just learning more about yourself and what you can control, what you can't control.
Yeah.
Me personally, it's just the more I've matured and the more I've like reflected on what impacts me, you become self-aware, and you know you need to do certain things, you need to stay away from certain things. I like, again,
that's where this helps.
I'll read you something that I read from this book. Okay, the formula of humanity states: act that you use humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, always at the same time as an end, never merely as a means. So what that means is, means are things that we do conditionally. They are what we bargain for. An end is something that is desired for its own sake. It is the defining, motivating factor of our decisions and behaviors. So the example that Mark Manson gave in his book, it's like, if you want a burrito, right? That is the end. That's the means that's what you're wanting, that makes you happy. Everything in between, when it comes to getting ready, getting in your car, getting gas, and driving, those are means, because that's what you bargain for to get that burrito to make you happy. So a means is, let's say the example he gave was with, let's say you have a wife or a girlfriend. They want to get a burrito because that's what makes them happy, okay? So you say yes and go and get a burrito because you're doing it not for yourself but for your partner, to make them happy, and you're doing it out of your own gratitude, right? Now, where the means comes in is for your own desires and your own, like, what you're bargaining for. So he says, if you're doing it to get that burrito to make your wife happy, but in the end you're wanting it to have sex after to make you happy, it's no longer an end. It's more of a means, because you're doing something to now make yourself happy as well, instead of also thinking about the other person.
It's not necessarily strictly out of the kindness of your heart.
Yeah.
So to
Exactly. So it's just like anything else in life, where if someone asks you to do a favor, and this is just like a scenario coming up at the top of my head. Let's say, Tanner, you ask Nick to go do you a favor. Let's say you want to go out and you want to get something because it helps you with the podcast, right? And let's say Nick says, yes, I'll do it. And he doesn't care about the money, the gas, or anything, his time that goes out of it. He's doing it because he wants to help you, and he knows it's going to benefit for the podcast, whether it be equipment or any of this other stuff that you need. Now, if he does that and then is expecting something from you to give in return, then it's not so much an end, it's so much more of a means, because now he's looking for something to make him happy because he did you a favor.
It's just not genuine.
Yeah,
exactly.
Is that where that trigger comes in, where it's like you have to have that trigger to even realize that that's even happening? Someone's got to tell you, right? You won't know until you know, that sort of situation.
Exactly.
But do you find nowadays there are a lot of people who are like that, like who are not genuine or have an ulterior motive? Like
that's just human nature. I think there's always two sides to everything, right? There's the good side and the bad side, and then in the middle there's the truth. So the bad people, there's always gonna be bad people out there, and doesn't necessarily mean that they're evil person, where they're, I don't want to malicious or anything. They're just bad people, whether they be selfish or they don't care about other people's feelings or emotions, or they don't care enough about them that they go out of their own way to make that person happy, right? Then there's obviously the good people that they don't necessarily need to be on camera, or they don't necessarily need to be like a philanthropist, or like somebody that is like that gives back to the community. It could be good people that just do things off camera, like people donating food, or people donating money to people that need it, right? Those are the real good people that don't necessarily need the attention, or they need people to recognize how good they are.
It just throughout your like experiences in your life and like dealing with a wide variety of people from different walks of life, have you seen quite a few people like that in the past? Like, and have you dealt with people like that?
Where it's like second chances if you catch them in those kind of like bad acts?
I don't want to say a user, but a user, or like a social climber or something like that.
Yeah, do they get second chances? Like, does your opinion go down on them?
It depends. I've dealt with a lot of people where they use me, whether it be a woman using me for putting them on their story, or tagging me, or like saying, and you know, I give you a funny story.
The shit people do for clout, man.
No, this is actually, you're gonna laugh at this, okay? I've been using like Bumble and Tinder. Was using Tinder because my account got banned like last week, because I guess somebody reported my account.
Did they think it was fake, or
no? They just probably didn't like me.
Oh, fuck.
Right. So, and then I use Hinge, which Hinge is probably the best app.
Yeah, Hinge is my favorite.
So I go on Bumble, because we'll
get into
that after, because that also ties into the dating and also the social aspect of what's going on, okay? Because it's very important. Relationships is another topic that is very important to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I go on Bumble, and she's like 21, I believe, and she writes, "Partied with the Nelk Boys once."
Oh my god.
It was so funny. I swiped right just for jokes, because
you go, I remember you.
I don't. That's the funny thing, is I don't actually remember her.
You probably partied with a lot of girls in that time period.
Yeah, like for 2 years. Although, okay, the thing is though, there are some people that stand out where I remember them, and there was actually a handful of females that I know that I still am friends with to this day. I've been friends with a few of them for 3 to 5 years now.
Nice.
Right? And it's platonic. It's friendly. They have boyfriends, so it's not like anything weird or anything like that. And it's not because I did it because I'm just wanting to have more friends, female specifically, is because I actually had a genuine connection with them outside of drinking or outside of partying, where I actually got to talk to them, get to know them as a person, instead of thinking I could just use this person to benefit my own means.
Yeah.
Right? I think the end in that situations are me making them happy, because I don't necessarily want anything in return except a friendship and just having the same mutual respect with them.
It's funny you say that, like where you mentioned you're like, yeah, I'm friends with them outside of drinking, because I know there's so many people who have their going out friends
and they're
real
friends with
friends.
benefits too, right?
Yeah.
I was
Do you
like,
think women and men can be like actually friends? Like a lot of people say that they can't because
so.
like sex gets involved, drama gets involved, all that shit.
You have to friend zone the girl.
Yeah.
Well, women have more control. I think women have more control about how they dictate the friendship or relationship, where they could friend zone you easily, because they have. It's a controversial topic now, because it's like they have more power in terms of how they want to navigate this whole situation. It could be fair where like it all depends on the communication and the boundaries that you set with that person.
Yeah.
So when I say to myself, can I be friends with this person, whether a male or female? Yes. I can be friends with females now, because I've set boundaries for what I'm looking for, what I'm wanting with them, and what they're wanting, whether it be a relationship, a friendship, or nothing, right? Just casual friends, right? And I've met a lot of women now, especially through the gym, where majority of them have boyfriends already. So it's like, who cares? Like now, like majority of the women I met throughout the years have boyfriends. So it's like they set the boundary before they had a boyfriend. The boyfriend just solidifies that boundary completely, where it's like you don't want to cross that boundary, because you're just going to be ruining a friendship with that person. Right?
That happens a lot more often than it should, especially in today's culture.
I like having like conversations with girls because I get their perspective. You know, I'm used to always talking to the boys, get the masculine opinion, and like I do have a couple girlfriends, and I always ask them like, "What do you think about this?" or "What should I do about this situation?" I think it honestly helps to like have friends with girls.
I think so.
Yeah,
Totally.
Well, to ask the question back, do you think or do you think two people of the opposite sex could be friends?
Yes.
Okay.
If you were to ask me a few years ago, I'd say no, because I was immature and sort of like guys are dogs to a certain degree, especially when you're younger. But as you get older, like as a guy, you're like, okay, like I enjoy their presence, not because I'm gonna have sex with them. I just like hanging out with you.
Yeah,
like you're having a conversation.
What about you, Tanner?
I'm the same way. Like
yeah.
When I was younger, I would have said no.
Of course, me too. I think a lot of men would have think the same way, because of the culture that they surround themselves with, and what other people tell them is right and what's wrong, right? To kind of follow up on that question, or that thing about relationships, it all depends on the boundaries. And what I learned through the subtle art is creating boundaries and values for yourself, so that you could let other people know what your intentions are. And when people are, when you said that you're younger and you don't believe that, I was the same way, because I just thought that to be friends with somebody, especially a woman, is to have sex with them. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
I think a lot of guys are guilty of it, still to this day are guilty of it. And like, depending on your friendship, and again, the boundaries you've set, I feel like there will not always, but like certain people where you don't know where you stand with the girl, there's a sexual tension just naturally.
Of course. And especially if you're attracted to them, I think it's always important to be honest with them from the beginning. And not really hide things that you truly feel or what you think, because it only creates problems after, because it's just like you feel like you're lying to that person, and they feel like you're lying to them if you don't tell them what you're feeling, right?
How do you think social media, I keep going back to social media, but how do you think social media
just
kind of
love
affected
social
that?
media?
I was interested. Like,
no, I know.
You're kind of our first guy we've had that's been involved in social media, kind of, so it's kind of cool to get your perspective on it. But I was wondering, how does social media affect that in terms of, like, because girls post pictures of them in bikinis, stuff like that. So it's like, how do you?
That's attention.
Yeah, it's attention, right? So how do you like become friends with them when you don't know like what their vibes are? Are they attention, or that, you know what I mean?
You don't.
You just kind of gotta trust yourself.
You just gotta trust yourself. You gotta move on, because those women, it's a very like touchy subject, because I heard of this on a podcast before. Women who post themselves or like them in bikinis or, you know, booty photos and showing themselves off. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this person's statement. Okay, Dean, you know Jack. Yes, but it was on his other podcast.
Oh, Denmo?
Yes.
Yeah.
His point was, women who do that, they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for attention, because the women that don't post photos of themselves on social media or just take photos for the camera rolls, that's doing it for themselves, because they're self-confident. They're confident in themselves. They don't need other people to see this, because why should they?
It's validation.
It's validation. Yeah. It's also acceptance by other people when they do that. And not just women, but men too. When they have in front of a car, or they have money, or they have jewelry, or they have all this fancy
six-pack.
It's human
nature. Not even the six-pack. I think it's more of like the designer stuff. Like if they have Gucci, Louis, Balenciaga, all this fancy materialistic things for men. They're looking for validation, and they're also looking to let people know, like, this is the lifestyle that they live.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily live the same life as them. You could just say to yourself, I don't need to do this, because why should I?
Yeah. It's like Zuckerberg and Bezos are walking around with like a t-shirt and ripped jeans on.
It's human nature, man. Yeah. Like, everyone loves attention and validation. Of
course.
I don't care who you are. It's nice for someone to be like, hey, like, you're looking good, or like, hey, like.
And that's what social media has done. It has implemented like people's minds to think that what they see online is how they should live their lives as well, where I say to them, you should just live your life and not even worry about that. You need to focus on yourself. You need to worry about things that you care about, the people around you that you care about, and the things that you love more, which I love doing videos, content, photography. I love basketball.
Nice Portland jacket on today.
Yeah, starter jacket. Yeah. And I've learned, my brother told me this, which is so true, because he likes to read a lot too. He's saying that, what is the point of posting these things on social media if you're not doing it for yourself and you're doing it for other people? Like, I used to post videos, like TikTok specifically, of me working out, and it got me thinking. That's why I stopped posting a bunch of it, because it's like, people don't necessarily need to know that I work out. They could physically see through a podcast or through my videos that I'm physically now becoming more healthier and fit, right? Now, I asked myself that night, I said to myself, am I doing this for myself anymore, or am I doing it for other people to see that I'm doing it for them, right? And it gets you thinking. It's like, some of the things that you post on your Instagram or something, are you doing it for them, or are you doing it for yourself because you're happy to post this and say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I get to do, or this is what makes me happy, right?
And do you think that comes down back to like not giving a fuck, where it's like people may perceive this as you posting it because you'll get attention?
That's what they want to see.
So how do we know those girls in bikini pictures aren't doing that for that reason, though? I don't want to like judge and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. Like, I can't find that line.
I think
you know
a few things.
It all depends. I think you just see straight ass cheeks, and it's like the caption is like, has nothing to do with the photo.
But you know what I mean, though. Like, you never really know. Like, you might.
It's all about the context and their reasoning behind it. So, like, let's say they do it because they want people to go subscribe to the OnlyFans, or they want people to like follow them to see more. Yeah, it's a marketing strategy, because they're using what they have
to build a brand,
right? Which, that's all credit to you. Like, if you want to do that, if you want to be an OnlyFans person, if you want to be a sex worker, if you want to post pictures of yourself online because it makes you feel good about yourself, or because you want to show people that how good looking you are, fine by me. Like, no judging. Like, that's your own life. I'm worried about my own life.
Yeah.
Now,
you see people go through a breakup or something and they post a thirst trap, and it's like, you kind of know why you're posting this.
Yeah,
like,
because you want to now make that person feel bad about themselves, what they lost and what they didn't have before.
Yeah, or it's like they want a couple hundred likes because in that moment it gives them a hit of
it's dopamine.
Or
yes,
they feel better. And if that makes you feel better, fuck it, do it. Same thing. I don't care, but
yeah, just don't put me in it.
Yeah, there's a fine line of like.
Yeah, there's a lot of fine lines I'm getting there in this industry.
Of course,
a lot of gray area.
Yeah, and it's a lot of gray areas, and that's just the thing. Like, that's the world we live in. That's what social media has evolved to, where now people get to do things for themselves. Yep. In a sense, and it all depends on what your intentions are with what you do.
What's the next evolution to that, you think? Like, where's it going? Where's social media going?
I want to know for you personally, like, what's your evolution? Because did you ever in your like wildest dreams picture yourself as being like a social influencer? Or like now you have a platform where, like, as you said, you want to use it for positivity. How are you going to do that through your next plan or next actions?
I think it's just more so just showing people that this is who I am, and this is what you're gonna get from me, and I'm not changing myself for your own pleasures or your own validations or what you want from me. If you follow me on my socials because you love what I talk about, what I am passionate about, and what I love to do, I respect you for that. But if you follow me because of what I used to do, and I'm not saying that it's bad to be a fan of me because of what I used to do, although if your intentions are for me to do what makes you feel happy about yourself, I unfortunately won't do that for you. So it's either you unfollow me, which I don't care if you unfollow me, because that's just a number. It's just one less person that doesn't care about me. And it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Right?
You're saying, fuck it, I'm being me. You either like me, you're either going to rock with me or you're not.
Of course. And life is more than just social media. There's much more things that you need to worry about, whether it be relationships or friendships or, like I said,
your job.
your job or your happiness.
Yeah.
Right? And people who are looking for advice, I would say just be yourself. Don't change for other people. Don't be different. Just know when to be good to yourself, and don't drink or do all that binge drinking because you're doing it for validation. If that's what you want to do, if that's something you want to do, go for it. Although you're just going to put yourself in a bad lifestyle. And I've learned through myself that when you do things for other people, it doesn't make you happy. Yeah.
Take care of yourself first.
Of course.
When we were getting started in all of this, we tried to order stuff off Amazon, and I had no idea where to even start. Like, I was looking at it, like researching stuff, and I was like, fuck, like we're not the most like technologically like advanced guys. So we were ready to shoot off like an iPhone and had no clue what we were gonna do. So thank God
we have Dean here.
We stumbled upon Neighborhood and Dean, because
shout out to Anthony, Ernesto, and Dean. Without Dean, this podcast would not happen.
No. When we first put out our first episode, so many of our friends were like, fuck, like,
looks pretty good.
This looks legit. Like, you guys are taking it seriously.
And you know what's so funny? Like, because Dean's obviously, he works in the neighborhood. This is like the fourth podcast that we've been together.
Hey.
Yeah.
2MBH. What was it?
It's Simple.
Simple, and then this one.
Yeah.
Friends for life now, I guess, huh?
Well, yeah, because we are in the same industry too, so we can relate in terms of whether it be photography or content creation or
the struggles.
He knows. We talked about it offline before too, and like for you guys, I actually was about to say this one podcast I did which hasn't come out yet. The filmer, you're gonna laugh at this, Dean. The filmer didn't really know how to like use his camera properly, so
fuck.
He forgot. I told him like after 30 minutes, you stop recording, you record it, and then you go back to the other one and you hit record again. He forgot to like basically record, like he forgot to stop recording and then record again after 30 minutes. So they couldn't even use his footage. They had to use the other camera of them rotating around, right? And it's just like one angle, and it was like black screen. You couldn't see anything. You could only hear things, and there's so much technical issues.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I liked where the story went, but it's not complete because it doesn't have the audio to go with the video, or the video doesn't have anything to go with the audio.
Yeah.
Right? And podcast is just, it's kind of difficult when you don't have a third person or a second person to go film with you and have the guest there, right?
Oh man,
It goes a long way. Yeah.
it does. Like the production goes a long way, because even just the two cameras makes it look so much better.
Yeah.
Cuts in, like.
I got one more question about photography for you.
Sure, yeah.
Who is one person that you would love to work with in terms of like you taking pictures of them?
Peter McKinnon.
Nice.
Have you heard of Peter McKinnon before?
Heard the name, but I don't know.
No, like,
He's a photographer and a content creator from Pickering.
Cool.
oh nice.
Pickering, I believe. Pickering, I believe. And he's a pretty big network now. He's grown a lot, and I love his work. I love his videos, and I definitely would want to meet him someday. Definitely, not even for the photo. I just think of just picking his brain, knowing like what he did to get through becoming YouTuber full time, and what he had to go through and what I'm dealing with, and we could just have a conversation off camera, like a podcast.
Yeah.
To kind of get to know him, and
A coffee.
coffee, and just really learn from people who I just look up to.
Who's
So
one
like a
person that you've worked
mentor.
with that you have learned stuff from? Who's your favorite person that you've ever worked with as of today,
Ooh.
besides us?
Or Dean.
Or do you-
One person I've learned a lot. I feel like photographer or just in general?
Just in general.
yeah.
Life in general.
Wow, that's a tough one.
Put you on the spot again.
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah. This is
It's tough.
it's
Yeah.
tough. I would say photographer wise, there's a lot of people. I want to say Elise Swopes. She's a photographer who was based in Chicago and lives in New York. And I watched one of her videos, and basically giving her a story about how she started with an iPhone.
Oh wow.
Right, and she likes to be putting like things that don't belong there and making a really like interesting photo, and just using her creativity to go with her style, and just like growing and adapting to what's around her.
Cool.
And then she likes to take a lot of street photos, a lot of landscape photos, and a lot of like skylines. And I'm like similar to what she shoots, and she's an amazing photographer. She's a great person. I've seen like through. I don't personally know her, but just through her
Social media.
Like listening to her. One person, like one person outside of that,
Could be family, could be anyone.
I would say my brother too. I'd say my brother has taught me a lot in terms of just life in general and the values. Also, even shout out Mark Manson. Like,
shout out Mark Manson.
shout out Mark Manson. Like, he's really helped me grow through life. He's helped me get through a lot of things in my life that I was dealing with and struggling with. And I highly, highly recommend you read that book. Every person I've talked to that is going through a difficult time and is wanting to find a reason to find happiness or start with things that kind of lead them towards happiness is honestly reading that book. And I suggested that book to 5 people now, and all of them have loved the book. The Subtle Art is probably one of the greatest books that's written in this, like, it's written in 2016, so it's probably one of the best books in my opinion.
I have to start reading more.
Yeah, me too.
Trust me. Reading is such a therapeutical thing to do.
Yeah.
It really like just kind of distracts you from the world. It kind of just lets you sit there and just think about things and make you question things about your life sometimes in a good way.
My thing is golf. That's my way of escaping.
To me, golf is a bit boring though.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, you kind of gotta like
You have to have a lot of
catch the
patience.
bug for sure.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of patience and just even like something like chess is a very patient thing.
Well, I find my attention span is
lower.
So shit to the point where I can't sit down and read.
Yeah.
Like I need, it's something that I've worked on, is trying to be able to just sit there and
no phone,
nothing, chill. Because there was a point like back in September, I couldn't sit on a couch for like 2 minutes without needing my phone or my laptop.
It's a crutch.
Yeah, and like TikTok is really.
Oh, you can watch like 1,000 videos in
the
20 minutes.
Last year the average attention span was 7 seconds.
It's like a goldfish. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you know the attention span of a goldfish?
They forget things in like, I saw it in a movie, but they forget things in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, so it's just like.
They say with athletes, like, have a short memory. Like,
yeah.
When you make a bad play, be a goldfish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
because
I'm a goldfish.
Lately, what I've been doing is just getting off my phone more. Mm-hmm. And it's slowly digressing in a good way. Mm-hmm. You're talking about digressing. It's a good way of having self-control and just not worrying about things that doesn't matter to you. Like looking at a photo or a video of things that just you don't even care about.
No. Well, I found like social media led to a lot of like my anxiety throughout the pandemic, as I said.
Speaking of, real quick, like what has sports done to you? To kind of
sports, man, I'd say a lot of lessons you learn from sports, you can implement that in like any aspect of your life.
Yeah, because
like, I'm sure you're the same way with just being disciplined. My coach always used to tell us, like, if we'd win a big game, he'd be like, be happy, not satisfied. Like, and that's something
also learning how to lose is huge.
Yes, that's
no
true.
one wants that feeling, but I feel like you have to have it in order to grow.
Taking negative feedback, like I find a lot of people can't take criticism well.
Constructive criticism.
And that's something, like I told my coach, I was like, hey, if I suck at skating, I want you to be honest with me because I want to get better.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't take that brutal honesty where it's like, if I'm in a job and someone's like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you need to get better at this. I want to hear that honest feedback instead of
like leadership as well. Like when you're a rookie on the team, or if you're new to something, it takes a while to get that confidence to be able to say like, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that, let's go this way. People are usually scared at the beginning to say something.
Yeah.
And they kind of grow into that, you know?
Yeah, real quick for you though, like what has lacrosse done for you mentally? Like has it affected you both positively and negatively?
100%, because there's a competitive aspect too, right? Where you're trying to make a spot, you're trying to promote yourself in terms of I'm better than this person, I should get paid this much amount of money, kind of thing. It becomes a business in a way, so it kind of takes away from like the love of the game. So you gotta like remember, like, you have that trigger I was talking about before to be like, I do love this game, like that's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it for the business kind of thing. So it's kind of like coming out of yourself and realizing why you're doing it instead of just getting the anxiety behind it, which I've struggled with as well. I get anxiety before games, stuff like that. So, but working on like trying to chill out and like just realize it's all good. I'm grateful I'm be able to play, like all that sort of thing. So
it's funny you say that because like I spent like a week living with one of our friends who plays for Montreal, and you could just tell he was so like nervous about the season or about like how he was going to perform because of contracts, because it's his livlivelihood.
When you're younger, you just show up and you play. If you lose, it's like, okay, I'm sad, but
I'm gonna go see home. The boys tomorrow. Or
It's the same thing with photography, videography, content creations, and that's being a freelancer. Now. It's my job, it's my career, and yes, like there are times where I don't make money and like I'm not monetized. Although it's more than just that. It's more of the happiness and what and what I'm passionate about doing. And this is why I did it, because it really made me feel happy. It gave me something to do, and it gave me a reason to still keep going on and keep living, and helping me through depression and anxiety and all that tough times.
So what is your why then? What would you say? Like everyone has their why of why they do something. What is yours?
My why is to just help people see what I see in a positive way, and being able to see how beautiful this world is, what you are missing out on, and even photos, like being able to see things that you may never have known about. And now I have a reason for you to go out and go see this place like Moraine Lake, or visit places like in Europe or Asia or everywhere else that I've traveled to, like California, or just little places, even in Toronto. Or
what is something that you're looking forward to that
Would give you good times ahead?
maybe will provide you with a sense of joy or a good time?
Yeah, or like I just thought of this now while we were doing this podcast. Like a famous question you could maybe think of.
Hey, we want to hear it. Again, we're new to this.
Yes,
so.
and this is like what the fifth episode,
sixth or seventh.
Yeah. So be like, I mean, this is just me thinking off the top of my head. What are things in your life that make you feel good?
Yeah.
Or something like just something like that. Like
something like that. Yeah. We need to have a better outro because mine.
Or what makes you have a good time?
Yeah.
Just something like something related
something
related to your podcast name,
It
right?
could be the last question of that podcast.
All right. So here we'll finish it up with what is something again? What's going to be a good time for you or something you're looking forward to?
Yeah.
Traveling.
Do you have anywhere in specific?
I want to travel to Banff again. I want to go to Moraine Lake again.
Nice.
I'll come with you.
Lake Louise.
I want to go out west. So.
Lake Louise, yes.
I'll go to Whistler.
That's what makes me have a good time.
Nice.
And I was thinking about too, before we wrap this up, like I was thinking of having a podcast myself, right?
There you go.
Yeah,
someday in the future. And I definitely would want to have Dean on it because I want to hear his story. I want to hear how he got into it. I want to know more about him, and because Dean is very quiet about his life, and I feel like a podcast, him being on it, would be very interesting for me to listen to.
Yeah,
I agree. Well, just even the conversation we were having prior to you getting here was a good one.
Yeah.
And my final question would be to ask you guys, just because now I'm asking people now, what makes you happy?
You want to go first?
What makes me happy? I would say like being around people that are always going to be there for me. Like I can tell them anything. I can have any conversation. So like friends, family are my main two, I guess I would say.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a pretty generic answer, but I really think like a lot of who people are comes from their family and friends. So you can kind of like have a reflection off that. And I think it's just.
What about you?
I'd say definitely friends and family, spending time with people I enjoy. And then something that makes me happy also is providing a sense of joy for other people.
Yeah.
That's
help
something,
people out.
again, that's one of the premise of why we started this is to
I'm
be
a huge
able to
people
help
pleaser
people.
too.
Yeah, you're more of a giver, not a receiver.
Yeah. Not a layup.
Yes.
Not a layup. Alley-oop.
Yes, definitely.
To answer my own question before we wrap this up.
Senses.
Yeah.
Family, of course, friends, health, photography, videography, basketball, music, traveling.
The little things.
Traveling
right?
for sure. And just those are the main things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meeting new people, stuff like
Meeting
that.
Meeting new people, yeah. There's a lot of people I met within the last couple of years that have really changed my life.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet
Including
you
Mark
today
Manson.
too. Yeah.
Of course, I haven't met him yet, but I
Yeah.
would definitely want to.
Well,
But
likewise, man. Thank you again for coming on. We could have gone for.
Yeah.
You need to come back on because we need
yes,
to run it
definitely.
back.
Yeah.
But thank you, and like and subscribe. There are 27 followers.
Yes.
There are good times ahead.
Leave a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leave a comment.
Boom.
All right. Cheers.